All right, ladies and gentlemen, Carolyn Maul is a professional life coach who, for over a decade, has been helping people take their personal lives, health, fitness, and relationships up to the next level. Aside from her master's degree in holistic nutrition and dozens of certifications, her main area of expertise lies in inspiring others to shift their mindset to understand the power of positive thinking and healthy living. And she has actually been on the show before. It's been a while, probably about 9 months or so since she's last been on, and we are so blessed to have her back. Carolyn, you ready to rock this?
If I can find you again. There you are. Yes.
Awesome. So thank you so much for coming back. We're going to have a lot of fun diving into these tips for men to be more empowered. I mean, I love this. I love learning about men.
As well, you should.
Awesome. Before we get there, we're going to dive into the theme of the day, which is the gift. Right? What is the gift? In life, we get challenged, we get trials, we get tribulations, we get problems, we get obstacles, we get devastated. And Carolyn, how do you handle life when those things come at you and see it as a gift?
You know what I always say? I always say that those are the gifts that come wrapped in sandpaper. And so, like you're given this gift and it is gritty, it is gnarly, it's not comfortable. But if you can actually unwrap that sandpaper outer coating, you've got something really special inside. And, it's all about, to me, how do I handle the gifts that come wrapped in sandpaper? Yeah. And part of it is knowing that they're coming. Part of it is just being like, oh, this is one of those. One of those.
I heard about you.
I've been expecting you. And so, and then you get really, really good at reframing things. Mm-hmm. Right. So instead of looking at things at face value or just being like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. This is that, whatever. You can actually start to reframe that story into something that's more like, what am I learning right now?
Yeah.
Everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. So what am I learning right now?
Wow. I love it. So we're going to dive into even more of the gifts that you've experienced in life. And before we get there, let's talk about what you're working on today and what you're doing, what you do for men, all that good stuff.
Yeah. And also, Chris, as we go on, if I should put my headphones on, I totally will. Tell me how sounds because sometimes things are different.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So I love men. Mm-hmm. My jam, right? Let's just call it like it is, right? And so whether you have a dad that you love, a son that you love, a husband that you love, a brother that you love, or just your major homie that you just always want to have in your life forever, whether you're a guy or a girl, you have men in your life that you love. And as an individual, I just happen to have a lot of men in my life. And so those are the people that I love working with the most. And so this week I'm doing this interview with you today. Mm-hmm. And then tomorrow I have another podcast with Professor Peter Nez on his Nez Nation station here. Mm-hmm. And then next week I'm starting a 5-day free mini course on optimal men's health. So what I really wanted to do today was sort of give a high level 10,000 foot view of what's going to be in the course, cool, which is the kind of 5,000 foot view of what I do with individual clients. So people who don't know me can kind of get to know me a little bit here, men or women. I mean, we're all humans, but there are certain things that are particular to men that I address more in this upcoming course. So that's kind of what's happening right now. I have all of my notes because I never go anywhere without being really and over
prepared. Secret to success right there.
Person, right? So basically today what I wanted to do was talk about 3 major points about how to live an optimal, healthy, happy life, especially as a dude.
Love it.
Sound good?
Yes. I'm a dude. I like this. This is good. We got dudes out in the audience. We love this. Yes.
Oh, good. Yeah. And so I know that you have a lot of guys who follow you. So please, all of your audience and anybody after this too, if you have questions, if there are things that come up, if you have specific, the best part about these things are the interaction that you get.
Yes.
So please keep an eye on your Facebook. I can only see you on my screen. Yep. So
I'm watching it. I'm
all yours, but you get to field the questions for us.
Yes.
Okay. So basically what I wanted to talk about today was the idea that, your body is a temple. All of these amazing ideas that you have, all of your business ideas, all of the energy that is coming into whatever foundation you're creating or whatever new product you're creating or whatever you're doing is being funneled through your body. If your body doesn't feel good, if you are in pain, if you have any sort of disease, guess what's going to supersede all of the creative, passion, purpose-driven things?
It's the pain.
Yeah. So part of my passion and my purpose is to be able to help people create this vessel, like the temple, right, that houses your purpose and passion. And part of that, first and foremost, is what you're putting into your mouth, like what you are creating the vessel out of. And I think that when you frame it that way, going through the Jack in the Box drive-through is a little bit less desirable. Do you know what I mean? Our body is constantly regenerating itself. It's constantly rebuilding. And you actually have a brand new body every 4 years. Like your different organs and your different tissues have different rates of turnover as far as cellular regeneration. But your whole entire body is new every 4 years. So a lot of what I've been doing as a side note is a lot of research on cancer prevention and cancer, dealing with when you have cancer. And so there are so many biomarkers that you can be tested for right now because cancer doesn't just like show up. Disease doesn't just like come along one day. It's 10, 12 years in the making.
Yes.
So what you're doing in your 20s and 30s is going to come to call in your 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
And a lot of young men don't want to hear that. They're just like, you're living in the moment, you're surfing, you're doing this, you're building your empire. But guess what? The vessel isn't changing. Like, what?
You don't get a new one. You get to order a new one, switch it out.
Yeah. It's not like Stitch Fix where you get to put it back in the box and like send it back and new one comes, So the first like actual practical order of business that I wanted to talk about today is the top 5 inflammatory foods that you might be eating that you might consider avoiding. And they're so pervasive in the American diet. So, of course, what I'm talking about is gluten, dairy, soy, white sugar, and corn. All right. So, boom. Think about what you've eaten over the past 24 hours.
It's like all of that.
Thank you. Just to prove my point, right? So now we're back in the Jack in the Box thing, right?
Yeah.
Where we've got like fried trans fats, we've got, gluten, we've got corn, we've got dairy, we've got white sugar, like all of the things that create inflammation in your body are present in almost all fast foods. And when I say fast foods, that includes things like Applebee's and the things that are fast foods, but you just sit down, Olive Garden, those kind of things. Don't think they actually make that much. They don't really do that. They do frost that stuff. So those top 5 anti-inflammatory foods, and like I said, I talk about this like day in and day out, but what can you do instead, right? So, gluten is just simply a protein that's found in wheat. And really, to be honest, there are proteins in every single grain. It's how the grain is made. Like it's nature. It's normal. But the way that farming practices are today, and the way the soils are today, and the way that genetically modified foods are today, there's so much that's happening with wheat that didn't happen 60 or 70 years ago. And so we're just not really well equipped to deal with that. So you can substitute alternative grains. You can substitute with, like amaranth and quinoa and buckwheat and millet, and there's like dozens of things that aren't wheat and gluten based that you might try.
Cool.
You don't have to shun grains. Grains are not bad. Like, I just want to say that. So then, and dairy, like, this is the story that I tell people. What is the purpose of cow's milk?
To feed baby cows.
To feed baby cows so that baby cows get from really small to really big really fast. So if you are someone who wants to go from really small to really big really fast, go drink a lot of milk. You're well on your way. That's the whole purpose of milk.
It's a good analogy.
Aside from the fact that we're the only mammal that drinks other mammals' milk, the purpose of cow milk is to get little baby calves really big, really fast. So if you're interested in that, awesome. And so men who are bodybuilders, men who are actually looking to bulk up, yes, whey protein shakes, yes, heavy cream, yes, with the dairy. But if you are someone who's trying to lose weight, not so much. Corn is a grain, and guess what we feed to cows? Corn. Surprised? 30% of the land mass in our country is being cultivated with corn right now.
Oh my gosh.
It's ridiculous how pervasive corn is in our food chain, like high fructose corn syrup. There's corn in ink. There's corn in boxes. There's corn in silos. There's corn everywhere. Right. It's nuts. And like I said, corn is a grain. Corn is very hard for people to digest. We are feeding agricultural livestock tons of corn to get them really fat, really fast. And it's just something where if you can avoid it, it will help your digestive system, and it does cause inflammation. Soy is a funny thing because they're, again, so pervasive. Soy lecithin, soybean oil. Your coffee creamer is made up of soybean oil. It is not made up of dairy if you're drinking anything by Nestle.
Wow.
It's everywhere. And the problem, again, along with corn, is that like 96% of it in our country is genetically modified. And it doesn't have to be labeled as such.
Oh, my gosh.
Better to avoid this.
Yeah.
And then last, we know about white sugar. We know sugar is bad. We know it's highly addictive. It's delicious, right? It's one of the joys in life. But it's also so pervasive. It's in so many things that if you can avoid adding it, you will be able to avoid creating an inflammatory response in your body. And why is that important? Because inflammation causes disease. And stress causes disease. But living with chronic inflammation is very uncomfortable, and it leads to other types of metabolic diseases that we don't even have time to talk about today. So what else did I write down? Basically that, like, you have constant cell turnover, constant cellular renewal going on in your body. So it's super important to put your mouth.
Yeah. And because like what we eat becomes us. And I know for anyone out there who doesn't know, like the genetically modified stuff, like if that is modified, the way the structure of these, vegetables, plants, proteins, whatever it is, if that's modified, then when we consume it, it's like a modified different kind of chemical structure. So when our body tries to assimilate that, when it used to expect something that came from the ground, something organic, something that Mother Nature made that it was expecting, and it comes in, it'll try to assimilate that as if it was what it used to be. And then when it isn't the same structure, it can wreak all kinds of havoc in our body and not have things function the way that they're supposed to and cause inflammation and all this other stuff that goes on.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of grains right now that are being made with like animal DNA.
Wow. That's crazy.
Science is amazing and and crazy, right? So we
yes.
take the good and we try to filter out the bad.
Yes.
So did anybody have any questions about that so far, or should I just kind of keep on rocking it?
Keep on rocking it.
Right on. So the second thing that I wanted to talk about is exercise, right? Because there again, we get busy. And then that whole daily movement thing gets pushed down. But one of the biggest things that you can do for yourself, no matter who you are, man, woman, young, old, it doesn't matter, is to move your body every day. It is meant to move. And what happens a lot of the times is when you're exercising, especially at a higher intensity level, is your body makes endorphins, right? We all hear about that, like the runner's high, like the things that happen in our bodies that make us feel really good. It's because our brain releases endorphins, and those are the same type of chemicals as like morphine and heroin and other more addictive drugs, but they attach so endorphins attach to the same cell receptor sites in your brain, in your prefrontal cortex, as do morphine and heroin and other, like I said, street drugs. So when we can feed those receptor sites with our own endorphins, with our own feel-good chemicals, the healthier that we are. I've been doing a ton of research on addiction, basically, and about like the chemical processes that happen in our brain. And it's really, really interesting because there's a lot of people that are simply born with less receptor sites for neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin to connect to. And those are the people that are most at risk for addiction to anything. But exercise is a significantly healthier addiction than cocaine. So I really, really encourage that over, going to downtown at night. So the other thing is, when you are talking about endorphins and feeling good and doing things because you know it's good for you and you know it makes you feel good, there's a thing especially with guys, now we're going back to the man-specific thing. When you're lifting weights, and especially heavier weights, and especially with major muscle groups, legs, back, chest, those types of exercises release more testosterone into your bloodstream, and that is what makes men feel good. You need testosterone for muscle growth, first of all, which is why, ladies who are watching this, you guys aren't getting bulky. Nobody's getting totally ripped because women just don't have the amount of testosterone in their body unless they're taking steroids, right? And again, going back to the drugs, unless you're actually taking something for it, you just simply aren't equipped as a woman with enough testosterone to bulk up like guys are. Period. But the way for guys to bulk up, build muscle mass, increase testosterone is through heavy lifting, especially squats, deadlifts, chest press, pull-ups.
My faves.
The basics. You know, like when we take it back to basics, it's like, wow, my God, it's so simple. It is so simple.
It is. It is.
And the other thing that I wanted to say just briefly about the exercise part is that posture, stature, how you show up in a room, all of those things are really, really important. Posture portrays confidence. It portrays strength. And what do you want to portray to your team, to your family, to your, you know what I mean? Like when you show up in a room, how do you desire people to see you? And posture is a huge part of that. Now we live in a culture where we're driving, internal rotation, typing, internal rotation.
Oh man.
Sitting, slumping.
Oh man.
Yeah. And so even just, yep, I know. Yep, pull your shoulders back, take a couple deep breaths. But how we are seen is basically the manifestation of the things that we're doing in private, right?
Yes.
The things we do in private show up in public. And so when you're taking care of your body, it shows up in public, and people will respect that. And there are certain instances where it's like, okay, yeah, I have a disease. I have Crohn's. I have fibromyalgia. I have diabetes. I have heart disease. I have high cholesterol. Okay, great. Guess what? Diet and exercise can go a long way to either reverse or at least help those conditions. Yeah. Just saying.
Just saying.
So posture, daily exercise, what you're putting in your mouth, does it look like how it grew? And then
quick question. In terms of the posture, what's the best way to like permanently set ourselves up to have a successful posture?
All right, well, that's a great question. So first of all, you have to take into account what you do every day. So let's say, for example, that you sit in front of a computer a lot, because I know that's a lot of people here. Yeah. So when you're sitting at a computer a lot, what's happening is you have this internal rotation of the arms. If you have ever walked through the grocery store and been behind somebody where you can see their palms, like you're behind them, but you see their palms, they have an intensely tight pectoral like shoulder girdle, right? Because their whole arm is internally rotated so that you can see their palm behind them.
Wow.
You shouldn't see somebody's palm behind them.
That's like almost, you think of like Frankenstein, you know? Frankenstein like walks like that, but imagine like your hands are by your side, like what the heck is happening?
So if some of your listeners right now were to just stand up and see where their hands hung by their sides, like are they facing the back? Or are they facing your legs? They should be facing your legs. So what that is really, really tight pectoral muscles and anterior delts, right? So all of this in the front gets really, really tight and turns inward. So the thing to do is work on stretching and opening through the chest and the front of the shoulders, while at the same time strengthening your back. So what does that mean? You know what I mean? Like going to yoga classes and you do like the cat and cow thing, you do spinal balancing things, you do like when you lay on your chest and you do the Supermans, you know, like when you pull up. All of those things are just body weight exercises that you can do to strengthen what's called the posterior chain, posterior back chain. Everything is connected. Otherwise, anything like lat pull downs, low rows, pull-ups, things like that will help to strengthen your back muscles and pull your scapula, your shoulder blades, back and down.
Awesome.
So anybody here who is at all like anatomy focused, if you think about retraction and depression of the shoulder blades, that is essentially the key to posture, is retraction, depression of the shoulder blades. Does that make sense to you?
Yep.
Yeah. You can feel it, right?
Yeah.
So that's the top part. And then you have to address the hip. You have to address your hips. And so most people who sit a lot end up having a posterior pelvic tilt. And all that means is, like, if you think of your pelvis like a bowl, front and back, the bowl is tilting backwards towards your spine. And when that happens, you lose that lower lumbar curve. It flattens out. That leads to a lot of lower back pain and poor posture. And so what you want to think about doing is reversing the posterior to the anterior pelvic tilt, which means actually like taking that bowl. You're probably sitting there, if you're slumping right now, if you sat up straight and pushed your hip bones forward towards your thighs, forward, anterior, tilt. See what happens to your lower back? It creates that curve again. Boom. So now you've got your shoulder blades engaged and you've got your hips neutral, but sometimes we have to over exaggerate to get back. So anterior tilt. Now you've got the right spinal alignment and you're still sitting, but feel how many muscles are engaged right now. A lot. Yeah. So if more people could just simply sit right, a lot of postural things, but not in an ideal world. So what do you do with this? So a lot of times what's happening here is your hip flexors, between your thigh and your hip bone, those get really tight. And your hamstrings, which you're sitting on all day, get elongated, which means weak. So a lot of times what needs to happen is hamstring strength needs to come about, as well as hip flexor stretches. So all of this is front, back, left, right. It's balancing out your body. And there's very, very common problems that people have, and there's very, very easy solutions. And it's not to say that they're like instantaneous or overnight, but part of what I do, like every single day, is help people get more in tune with their bodies. How do you want to be seen when you come into a room? Where are you experiencing pain right now? Let's fix that, because it's totally fixable.
Yes. There is hope.
There's hope. There's totally hope.
Absolutely. It. Cool. That was beautiful. And if anyone has any questions on posture, Carolyn is here for the next 30 or so minutes, going to be answering questions about that, as well as these other tips on, especially guys, and for women out there too. You can ask questions. She's a powerhouse, awesome fitness expert, and doing all kinds of amazing stuff. So let's keep this train rolling, Carolyn.
All right. So next station, everybody experiences stress. So stress equals disease. So if you want to get sick, awesome. Ride the stress train to the next station. God bless you. Have a great life. There's ways to manage your stress. I promise, because stress is simply how we perceive the things that are happening to us in life. You can't change people. You cannot change your boss. You cannot change the fact that your mom has Alzheimer's. You cannot change the fact that your kid's school bus driver is a jerk. Like, none of these things you can change, but you can change your internal reaction to them. Now, this is easy. Once again, it's easier said than done, but it's totally possible, and it just takes practice. It just takes practice. And this is something that I love helping people work through, because everybody's got their own stuff. You know what I mean? Like, everyone is experiencing stress in their lives slightly differently. So tell me what it is. Tell me what's not working. And then we can figure out what to do, The other thing with men, right? This is so the guy specific thing here. A lot of men, when they're under stress or when they can't figure something out, they go to the island. They isolate. They don't talk about it. They're going to figure it out. I'm really upset about this right now, but I'm going to figure it out. I don't want to burden anybody in my family with this. I'm going to figure it out. Okay, guess what? When you go to the island and you leave us all here, we're like, wow, where did he go? I'm alone now. Or, wow, he doesn't trust me enough to share what is important. I'm not important. I must not be, you know what I mean? So when you put yourself on the other side of the spectrum, like guys are like, I'm just trying to protect everyone. I'm trying to protect my kids. I'm trying to protect my wife. I'm trying to protect. But that leads to isolation, and that doesn't work. Because then everyone you've left behind on the mainland here is like, dude, we have no leader, first of all. And second of all, we must not be worthy of that intimate relationship, which is all that we really crave with you. So the isolation part doesn't really work. And ultimately, there's so many studies that have been done about married couples where the wife passes first. So NPR actually has been doing this really, really cool podcast series, and I'll be darned if I can remember what it's called. But they talk about this all the time, about like the American man's life and these feelings of isolation, and especially so younger men around social media. But one of the topics was this rise in suicide rates among men in their 40s and 50s. So historically, there's high suicide rates in men in their 20s, like teenagers and early 20s, when life is really hard and confusing. But then the suicide rate drops, 30s and 40s. I mean, that's when you're raising a family. It's when you've got and then it picks up again in later age, 70 and above. But there's been this trend that has been happening where the suicide rate in men in their 40s and 50s has been rising. And a lot of that has to do with these feelings of isolation. And the fact of the matter is that there's a lot of guys who, if it weren't for their wives, they would have no one to talk to. You get married, you have kids, you're in your career, and then you have no social life. A lot of the times, or you don't have peers that you trust to have that intimate relationship with. And so if you get divorced, which of course, obviously the divorce rate is very high. If you get divorced in your 40s, there's a lot of men that feel very alone, that feel very isolated. They don't have anyone to talk to. That leads to depression. That leads to another whole like bad habit type, you're drinking more, you're isolating even more, all of these things. So the idea of isolation is something that I really like to address, because it's not, it doesn't work. It is not what you should be doing. I know it's hard to talk about feelings. These are things that we work on. I know it's hard to admit vulnerability, but that's actually what makes you brave. And to be able to continue to cultivate adult male relationships outside of your marriage, outside of work, is really, really important. It's crucial for your health and your happiness. So anyhow, there's all these longitudinal studies now that show if a man goes through a marriage and his wife passes first, that the chances of him passing within the next 2 years are very, very high. Wow. A lot of times people just don't feel like they have anything to live for. They don't have any friends. Their social life just passed away. And that's it. So isolating is just as bad as stress. It's just as bad as just eating ho-hos all day. And so I just wanted to say that today, so that anybody who's listening that's thinking wow, I'm not in touch with my buddies from college anymore, or wow, I don't go out. I'm not part of the community. I need you to start to really think about ways that you can reach out, or ways that you can try to be a part of your immediate community, because it's what human beings are meant to do. We're social animals. and love, touch, hugs, just looking at each other in the eye, like person to person contact is critical.
Yeah.
It just is that way.
Wow, that's so powerful. I love this because this is, a lot of men have no idea. They have no idea that this is running the show, that this is a factor. And I love how you gave, suggestions, like get in contact with these men from in similar industries or outside of work, but like who have similar passions. I know for me, I valued a lot of transformational work that I did, like landmark communities. I'd meet a lot of people over there and have this bond and this common language of transformation, of personal development. So go to meetups, go to these different communities that have empowering visions of who you can be. Go to Chamber of Commerce, go to Toastmasters, go to these places where you can network with like-minded people with similar values. Especially a lot of people who watch this show are all about growth, growing, being their greatest possible self. So where do you find those people? And go tap in. And I think the other thing I heard is asking for that help, reaching out is so freaking critical, because I do the island thing. I totally know it. And there's this element that's like, well, if I talk about the fears and it makes them real and, they'll just disappear on their own and, blah, 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 all these stories, right? But it's just saying that I need help, I'm afraid of this. Like, please help me. How can, I don't know what to do, just coming to that place of being vulnerable. And like you said, that bravery has people like want to be around you. That vulnerability has people, create that intimate relationship where I don't have it all together all the time. And it allows people to come in, and a lot of people like helping and being there to support and being there to solve problems and, be valuable. A lot of people find their value and their worth in helping people when they're struggling, and especially a lot of messengers, influencers, stuff like that. So this is gold, Carolyn. Gold.
And also to all those people, all of the caregivers and all of the giver people, guess what? People really want to help you.
Yes.
You are making them sad by not allowing them to help you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it is actually a gift. You're admitting vulnerability, you're admitting that you need help is the gift to all of the people who are wanting to help you, because then they can step up and provide that. And how good that feels. Mm-hmm. Give that gift to someone else as well.
Yes. Wow. Amen.
Amen, brother. Anyhow, the last thing about stress, all right? Last thing about stress that I want to say, and then we can open it up and just like talk about whatever.
Cool.
Is that when you are stressed, your body makes a series of stress hormones. So cortisol, norepinephrine, adrenaline, all of these things that your brain makes when it's stressed out. Cortisol is intimately tied to insulin. Insulin is a storage hormone. If you would like to store fat, by all means, release more insulin into your body through either eating a lot of white sugar, processed foods, and highly processed carbohydrates, or being stressed. And so and there again, like, we don't even have time today to go over the whole biological process. I don't know if anybody even really cares, but suffice to say, when you are stressed out and that cascade of hormones comes into your bloodstream and you're just sitting there on a really freaking irritating conference call, cortisol gets released and then your blood sugar levels go up. Cortisol pulls glycogen from your muscle stores because it's the pre part of the fight or flight syndrome. Okay, so now your body's thinking like, we're gonna have to respond, but you're just on a conference call. And then blood sugar levels go up and your brain's like, dude, we need equilibrium. Pancreas, we need insulin. So insulin gets released by the pancreas to lower those blood sugar levels again within your body. You're still sitting on the conference call. So insulin is released. It is stored primarily in your midsection. It contributes to the fatty liver disease, right? Crap. And then all of a sudden your blood sugar drops and you're like, oh my God, I'm really hungry right now. I could really go for a candy bar. Like, I need a soda, something. And then you're like going to the vending machine. You're like, yeah, I'll take a number 5 and supersize me. And you're like, I haven't done anything except that you have, and you're super stressed, and you've had this whole physiological cycle happen in your body. And when it happens chronically, day after day after day, you're in traffic, you have an asshole for a boss, you're in a really, really stressful relationship, any of these things that contribute to chronic daily stress makes your cortisol levels stay up really high. And that's why people gain weight from stress. It really does make you hungry. It really does make you store fat around your midsection. It is really, really, really real. You're not crazy, and it's not a myth. So managing your stress is not only going to help you manage disease, you know what I mean? Like preventing disease or healing from disease, but it's also going to help you manage your weight. And that is something that for a lot of people is important, because if you're carrying around extra weight, pretty soon your knees are going to hurt. Pretty soon you're not going to like the way you look in the mirror. Pretty soon you're going to go to the doctor and he's going to be like, okay, yeah, you're pre-diabetic, you're hypertensive, like all of these things. You don't want that. So we go back to the beginning. It's so simple. Watch what you're putting in your mouth. Daily movement, so how do we manage stress? And it's all up in your mind, right? Like it's all in our perception. There's a ton of really cool apps now. Like Headspace is a really good one. There's lots of little apps that will take you through maybe a 5-minute meditation, or like just reminding you to sit still, drink some water, take some deep breaths. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. Correct your posture. There's a lot of technology that can help you start these better habits. Part of it is discussing it with someone, right? Like, that's what I do. And then you're aware of it. You've said it out loud. We can come up with a game plan of how to, there again, like reframe the things that you perceive as personal attacks or things that are bothering you. And then, then we go from there. But figuring out a way to manage your stress, either through meditation, through exercise, through talking to a therapist, through journaling, anything to get it out. It doesn't just solve itself up here. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. That was perfect. That was great.
I went again.
I'm like writing down notes, like stuff I gotta take on and clean up and all this kind of stuff.
So this whole thing is why I'm doing the 5-day mini course next week. Because no matter who you are, no matter what courses you've done, we can always be doing a little bit better.
Yes.
And so next week, Monday the 9th through Friday the 13th, 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time, I'm going to be coming into the Wellness Man Cave. I've got this private Facebook group, Wellness Man Cave. And it's actually already full of recipes from my friend Holly Clegg's cookbooks.
Awesome.
Like anti-inflammatory, like Kitchen 101, all of these things. So she's posting a lot of recipes in there. I'm posting things on fitness and relationships and stuff like that. So I'll give you a link. You can share it with your people. I'll post it in the comments. Okay. But the Wellness Man Cave is where all of this, the 5-day thing is going down next week. And people can show up for free. And like I said, this was like a 10,000-foot talk about these things. Next week will be like the 5,000 level talk. And then if in the future people say like, I need a little bit of personal help, like I really want this and this in my life to suss out, like, then they can talk to me.
Specific results, specific areas of transformation, talk to Carolyn. I love that. Yes. So in terms of when men are like living this kind of lifestyle, what will happen to their results? What will happen to their happiness, their relationships? Like, paint the picture of when people get this right. And for the men out there who aren't living this, notice if you aren't doing this. If this isn't your life, then you have some work to do.
Right. And so what happens, first of all, is that you start to sleep better. And there again, sleep is a big part of health. Like, you have to be getting enough rest. But a lot of us, and I say us because it happens to everybody, when you wake up at 2 a.m. and you lie there worrying about all of the things that you cannot control. What am I going to do? How is this going to work out? Oh my gosh, like I'm in debt. I'm going to have this conversation. I'm worried about my teenagers. All of these things. When you're stewing about things that you can't control at 2 a.m, you have a problem. Because you're going to wake up exhausted. And then what is the first thing you're going to do? You're going to have some coffee. You're going to be running late. You're going to go through the drive-through. You're going to blow off your workout. You know what I mean? Like all of these things. So where does the cycle start for you? You know what I mean? Like and I think with women, and especially like kind of in mainstream culture right now, there's this self-care thing that you hear about all the time. Self-care. And women are much more open to like bragging about their self-care. I got this great massage today. I got my nails.
I sat in my bath and the candles are lit and there's petals all over.
Like that's not really my jam. But if that is someone's idea of self-care, then awesome. Like for a man, it is different. Like, let's just be honest about this. And what self-care needs to be defined for a man is what it takes for him to enjoy the time he has to himself. This is just my opinion.
Yeah.
But one of the things I hear the most is I don't have any time. I don't have any time to myself. And when you're constantly doing for others, or when you're constantly running like willy-nilly all over the place, yeah, you're not enjoying life and you're constantly living with that high cortisol stress level feeling. So how can we rearrange your schedule to facilitate making sure that you have daily movement, right? Making sure that you're getting a workout, and it's even going for a walk outside. Like, it doesn't have to be complicated. How can we make sure that that is in there? How can we make sure that you're going to have healthy, nutritious food available to you all day long? Now, that might be in partnership with a wife or a girlfriend or a food delivery service or your secretary or your personal assistant or whoever it is that you rely on to help you. But that's a huge part of self-care. Taking care of your body is self-care. And that's not like, oh, I got my nails done and I laid in my bubble bath. It is the actual practical application of taking care of yourself physically.
Yeah.
You can't take care of anybody else if you're sick. Then is the headspace part. So who do you have on your team that is a trusted advisor? Who do you have on your team that is a mentor?
That's good.
Who do you have that you can turn to talk about the things that you need to talk about, whether it is in business, someone who's outside of the organization, someone who can give you actual feedback without actually being emotionally involved? Or who do you have as a therapist or some sort of coach when it comes to intimate relationships? You have to have somebody who's outside of your world so that you can bounce some ideas off of there and actually have the ability to say out loud what it is that you're thinking. Guess what? You know this, Chris, as well as I do. Like, you really have all the answers, but until they come out of you, until the actual problem comes out, you can't actually solve them. It's really important to get stuff out. So who are you, like, who's helping you with your food? How is your schedule organized so that you have time for yourself, self-care every day? Who are you able to vent to talk to come up with new ways of communicating with? And when do you have alone time? Because everybody needs a little bit of privacy.
Yeah.
A little bit. I'm not talking about go to the island. Like, here on the mainland, where have you designed in your life even 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's like sanctuary, peace, stillness.
Sitting and breathing. People are like, oh, I don't know how to meditate. Another word for meditating is sitting still and breathing.
Yes.
It's not complicated.
It's not.
Don't make it complicated. So these are some self-care ideas. Like when you're when you're looking at your schedule, you and all of your listeners, it's like, okay, when you look at your schedule tomorrow, how's it all going to go down? Where are those three things?
Yeah, and the fastest way to understand what might be out of alignment, or if you're really achieving the max potential, because I know for me, I'm always about how do I know I'm growing at the fastest level that I can? How do I know that I'm really getting the most out of my days that I possibly can? It's through having that outside objective source or advised or a trusted advisor kind of thing that we can bring our life to and say, I'm doing this, I'm either not hitting these goals or I'm hitting them. What do you think? Is that appropriate? Is that not? And Carolyn is amazing as an objective source of feedback, tons of knowledge, tons of wisdom, tons of science behind everything she talks about. And I love everything that we've discussed today. It's brilliant. It's beautiful.
Thank you. I love having these discussions with you because I know that you're on this path. You know what I mean? So we're kind of talking the same language. I actually had one of my clients do a really, really cool testimonial video for me. Mm-hmm. I actually haven't shared it yet, but he was like, so side note, I work with a lot of ex-pro athletes, ex-pro ball players, big, gnarly dudes who are my ego is getting in the way. My ego is trapping me from getting to my best self. I know I'm capable of more, but they're so wrapped up in being seen or being famous or being a certain way from in the past that the ego part has to somehow get either balanced or kind of, mitigated in some way by reality. The reality is no one's thinking what you're thinking they're thinking.
Right.
When you walk into a room and you're like, oh, she's thinking this, or they don't like me for this, or they resent me for that. Okay. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Wow. So that's awesome. And, I think that speaks to how anyone, no matter where we're at and wherever we're at on the journey, anyone still has these challenges to deal with. So for everyone listening, don't beat yourself up if you think you should be farther by now or you should have had this mastered by now. I think, the little kid can ask for help, the grown adult, the elderly person, the superstar, the celebrity, even celebrities need help. I was talking with a guy yesterday. He had a lunch with a billionaire, and this billionaire has challenges finding the relationship of his dreams, can't trust people, doesn't know how to have great relationships, quality relationships. So everyone's dealing with something, and the people who win the most are the people who can just say, I need freaking help. Not to raise the white flag and give up, but to raise the hand and say, listen, I need help, and to seek it and to ask for help and to be courageous and relentless in getting that. Because I know for me, one of my thoughts is, well, what if this person can't help me? What if they give me the wrong advice, and I already had the advice within me the whole time? It's like, well, you know what? You'll never know till you get there. So just go ask for help. And if it works, great. If not, keep going. Keep freaking looking for the answer. And just that process of being courageous enough to ask will transform our self-identity and will give us the answers, attract to us the answers, the people who have the answers or who can help us get the results we want.
You can learn something from anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You might not get the exact thing you were looking for, but you're going to get something. Yeah. And that will be valuable in and of itself. Yeah. Everybody has something to offer.
Yeah, and it's better than being jaded and saying, nobody can help me.
Which is it? And that is the number one rule of the mind, right? What we tell ourselves is what we live.
Yeah.
And that right there is the basis of all therapy, of all coaching, of every transformational model that works, is to understand that the words that we say to ourselves play out in our lives. Don't like the way your life is? Guess what you're going to have to change first?
That's stinking thinking. Awesome. So Carolyn, remind us, what do we do next? How do we stay connected with you? One more call to action about this next 5-day challenge you got going on.
Awesome. So obviously I'm here on Facebook, and you guys can link to me here. Private message me if you have any questions. We can hop on the phone for 15 or 20 minutes, do a quick call, see if it's a match, no strings. Next week, starting on Monday, April 9th, I'm doing a 5-day mini course that's going to be housed within the Wellness Man Cave.
Mm-hmm.
And so that 5-day course is going to focus on all of these things: nutrition, fitness, stress management, but at a higher level. Also within that private group, I mean, it's a public group, but anybody can join it, but there's going to be actual PDFs that are linked into the files. So like the 5 top inflammatory foods I talked about at the beginning of the hour, there's going to be a whole PDF in there for you to access, print out. There's recipes, there's all of these things, right? And so if you want more information, totally free, go into the Wellness Man Cave. I will give you a link and you can join the group. Let's see what else. I mean, that's pretty much the biggest thing that's going on. So like, I'm going to link to this interview in there. I'm going to link to my interview from tomorrow in there. There's tons of recipes. So if you want to stay in touch right now, that's the biggest way to do it, is just because you're watching this on Facebook. Go into my private group, the Wellness Man Cave, and hang out in there. See what you think. You can always go away again, you know.
You can go back to the island.
But come to the mainland.
Come to the mainland temporarily.
It's a totally safe environment. Lots of cool guys in there. And that's where the whole thing is going to go down next week. And then obviously, like I said, like, the one-on-one coaching is what I love to do. I love to help people, and especially men, like confidentiality. Women like to talk about it in the group, and there's this huge thread. And I get that that's not what guys like. Guys, we're going to talk on the phone. We're going to talk privately. Nobody else is going to know. And then we can figure it out fast. People get results fast from one-on-one coaching. So those are the 2 things. Come to my group, private message me, and we'll get going.
Love it. Carolyn, you're a freaking rock star. Love your energy, love your knowledge and wisdom, and we love you. Thank you so much for showing up today and giving us this gold, and we're excited to see you in the Wellness Man Cave. Everyone, go join the group and learn about these awesome recipes and how to be our best man that we can possibly be.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what? Your wives want you to be the best men.
Amen. 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 We deliver that. We give that best man to her. Awesome. Carolyn, thank you so much, and we'll see you soon, okay?
Right on.
All right. See ya.